I'm Michael and this is Salt Candy, your one-stop shop to tips, tricks, and gear reviews to help you get the best possible results out of your recordings. In this video, I'm going to review Pro-Q3 by Fabfilter. If you are only going to get one EQ plugin, this should be that plugin. Let's begin. Now, in my last video, I reviewed Tilt Shift by Goodhertz. I love that plugin. I use it all the time, but it's more of a quick and simple EQ. Pro-Q3, on the other hand, is designed to be the only EQ plugin you'd ever need. And while that could be a bad thing, an over-cluttered plugin in the hands of less skilled developers, Pro-Q3 makes it easy to do the bulk of your EQing without more advanced features ever getting in your way. But it also makes it easy to use those advanced features if you know what you're doing. Now, let me know in the comment section below if you've used Pro-Q3 and how you liked it. If you haven't yet, you really should try getting your feet wet. You won't be disappointed. So this is a pretty easy plugin to review. You should get it. It's top of the line, best in class. But I thought for those of you who haven't tried any Fabfilter plugins yet, that I'd go over some of the global Fabfilter features that make all of their plugins ridiculously awesome. I'll also go over some of the ways I use this plugin and see if your workflow might benefit from something similar. So Fabfilter's generally got a lot of awesome features that they extend to all of their plugins. They have a clean, modern, attractive interface design. Instead of trying to emulate the look of analog gear, they instead focus on making a modern and very usable interface that makes it easy to do what you need and want to do with the plugin, but doesn't distract you or necessarily try to color your opinion of the sound. They have reliable and excellent sound quality. Fabfilter, I also might mention, if you go to their website, they have excellent, practical, and in my opinion, myth-busting tutorials. I've learned a lot from their tutorials in the past. The plugins are really easy to use. Pretty much everything is labeled in front and center. They have a clickless bypass that you can use instead of the built-in bypass button in whatever DAW you're using. They have this useful little control panel. If you take a look right here, if you hover over it, it'll appear, but you could click it to make it stay up as you move about the plugin interface. And basically here they have this mix knob or this gain scale, so you can exaggerate the processing or you can reduce the processing. And if you go down to 0, it's basically like bypassing, or it's actually exactly the same as bypassing. And then you can command click to return actually anything to 0. So if you're moving stuff around, command click, it'll go back to its default setting. Also in this little thing, you have this left, right, or mid-side knob, so you can change the output panning either in mid-side or left-right. You have this infinite undo and redo buttons up here, A being with copying, presets, as well as being able to save your own presets. Also, you can resize the interface, so you can go anywhere from mini to medium, extra large, or full screen. And then you can also change the scale that you're viewing this at. So now let's go over specifically what I think are the standout features of Pro-Q3. Now, obviously, you can do what you could do with any visual parametric equalizer. You got shelves, you've got low pass, high pass type settings, your normal bands, and all of this is very good. You can use your scroll wheel on a trackpad, what you would use to scroll, to change the Q parameter, pretty much of everything freely. And for the low and high pass, it even goes down to a brick wall setting, which is surprisingly transparent for such extreme settings. Very easy to just grab any setting and just kind of change it. You can adjust things up at the bands themselves or down here in the knobs. But let's just kind of go over the settings that I find to be very special and very easy to use, that I use quite frequently, and make Pro-Q3 such an outstanding plugin. First off, if we go back down to this menu, we have the auto gain button. Now, auto gain is fantastic. It's so good that I'd say I strongly preference EQ plugins or any plugins that have good auto gain, because it makes it extremely easy and transparent to change your settings. And as you change them, the gain is adjusted automatically. That way you're always A-Bing those setting differences without the gain changing and fooling your ears. In my next video, I'm actually going to go over tone control, which is a Goodhertz plugin that doesn't have auto gain. And I do use that plugin quite a lot, but you'll notice my other two most used EQ plugins, actually 3, I'm going to go over Gullfoss by Sound Theory in another video. So Gullfoss, Fabfilter, Pro-Q3, and Goodhertz Tilt Shift all have auto gain settings, and it makes it extremely easy and transparent to set your EQ settings and be able to tell right away if you're improving or harming the signal. In the latest version of Fabfilter's Pro-Q, we now have a dynamic EQ that can be applied actually to any band that you create. So let's say we've got some of these. So we're tilting the whole thing. Now, if you'll notice, this changes the gain of any slider, right? But if you notice this little wheel around it, you can use this to set your dynamic EQ. Let's just say we're playing some audio through this. We can notice that it's adjusting based on the source material. So you can make this either positive or negative dynamic range. And it'll have automatic settings, but if you need to adjust them, the threshold, you can click into it and make a change over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that. Now, I love to set my EQ settings and then obviously case by case, but often I'll dial them back via the dynamic settings so that my settings are generally applied, but they're cut back when the affected frequencies don't need to be boosted or cut to that degree. I like that I'm able to dial it back. Now, I know you might be thinking, why not just use a multiband compressor? And I often will choose a multiband compressor over this, but when you just want some subtle dynamic controls, it's really easy to just, boom, grab a band and just dial it in real quickly. What's good about using Pro-Q3 instead of your average multiband compressor is you can apply your dynamic cuts or boosts to pretty much any size band or any type of band, right? As opposed to a limited region with limited slopes on either side, you can set a very drastic EQ and then just reduce it when you need it reduced, when the frequency grows too strong in that band. This is much more adjustable than you can make with a multiband compressor, but the advantage to the multiband compressor is that you can set your compression settings very specifically and explicitly. So you can, set your knee, set your range, set your attack and release and threshold and all of that. Pro-Q3 also has an excellent spectrum analyzer, so I just play this right here. And you look at the analyzer, so let's say we just make a couple changes. We can see the before and after right here. We can also turn either on or off if we want to just examine them independently. In old versions of Pro-Q and Pro-Q2, which I also had and used a lot, you could set a side chain to one of your other audio tracks. Let's say you're in a mix, and then you could see both analyzers on the same interface. So that could allow you to make more informed decisions if you were, obviously, trust your ears first, but if after you'd identified issues, you're trying to tune in to exactly where they were. With this, any other instance of Pro-Q3 is going to appear in the in this dropdown. So if I just made another track and on that track I add Pro-Q3, if I go click over here now, Audio 4, so this is Audio 4 right here, I'm able to see both of those. Now there's nothing on that track to visualize right now, but you'll be able to click into any other instance of Pro-Q3 and you could EQ match with it, or you could use it to make your EQ decisions as you go. So that's fantastic and extremely useful, especially when you're trying to clear offending or conflicting frequencies between multiple tracks in a mix. So let's go through an example. This is the finished mix, but if you'll notice, it's kind of too dark and muddy in this mix. I didn't get the mix tone right away. So I'm going to use Pro-Q3 to just do some perhaps more obvious EQ adjustments right now, but you can just see how effective the auto gain is, how I might use some dynamic EQ, tone back some of the settings if it's a little too strong or a little not transparent enough. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Spirit of the forest, you know my name, but on my soul, you have no claim. Sycamore leaves screaming like breeze, scaring my dreams away. Sycamore trees are burning like gleams, depriving my home from me. Revelations came on time. I lay awake at night. You are nothing but words, and I come and show you the sun for the last time. Birds and the bees, sycamore trees. Birds and the bees, sycamore trees. Creator of the universe, from you I came.
So it might have been hard to hear how dark the mix was before, or maybe it was easy for you because you hadn't just been mixing this. but definitely compared before and after with these kind of just quick settings I'm dialing in.
Scaring my dreams away. Sycamore trees, the burning like gleams, depriving my home from me. Revelations came on time.
It's like you're pulling off a wet blanket. Now, in reality, I probably wouldn't apply such drastic settings to a final mix. I'd go back and adjust some of my decisions, but maybe this is the mix you've got and you need to, this is what it takes. Right? I think it's a good general strategy to close your eyes sometimes when you're setting the gain until it just sounds right. Right? You don't want to EQ with your eyes, you want to EQ with your ears until it sounds good. But yeah, it's pretty quick and easy to apply some broad strokes and some more subtle strokes with this plugin, and also to quickly dial in some dynamic EQ really easily, quickly, and transparently. And then with this auto gain feature, I didn't even have to change my gain as I went. I was able to just quickly hear, A-B it, done. So there's honestly not a lot you could criticize about Fabfilter plugins. They're very well thought out and designed with excellence and ease of use in mind. I've been using them somewhat longer than any other third-party plugins because the first investment I made actually when learning to mix several years ago was in their mastering bundle. I kind of wish I'd gone with the Pro bundle to begin with because I eventually completed that collection anyways, and I think I would have saved some money with that bundle. But yeah, definitely check out Fabfilter, and I'd recommend many of the other plugins, many of which I will also be reviewing in the weeks and months to come. Pro-Q3 is excellent, and you really can't go wrong with it. It costs $179 on its own, but you shouldn't buy it on its own. You should buy it in a bundle. You save a lot of money that way, and you're really doing yourself a favor when you get one of their bundles and just upgrade your set of tools. This would be a solid investment for beginners and pros alike. Now, I'm going to be reviewing Goodhertz's EQ plugin Tone Control next, followed by Sound Theory's Gullfoss, and then I'll do a video showing you how I use these 4 EQ plugins for most of my EQing in my mixes. Make sure you like this video and subscribe, and click that little bell icon to make sure you don't miss any of my coming EQ series videos. I'm Michael, and you've been watching Salt Candy.